women actually you lose up to 30% of collagen within the first 5 years of menopause. And that's quite a lot. And no, I can't eat fat. But we need fats. It's the sort of fat, olive oil, butter, nuts and seeds, avocados, wonderful sorts of fat.
Welcome back, Alison.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be back. Thank you so much for having me again.
Of course. All right. So, number one issue that most women face is skin. The skin quality or elasticity kind of declines as you're approaching the menopause age. What is that specific hormone that is declining so rapidly that is causing the sudden loss of hair and skin, collagen and elasticity? And what would you recommend in terms of course, food and nutrients that could counteract this?
Yeah, as far as hormones, when we talk about that, when we come into menopause, perimenopause, we have a decreasing collagen and elastin, and that's really what keeps our skin nice and plump and fresh. And the main hormone is estrogen and progesterone as well. But estrogen really is the main one there that has an effect on the skin and also on the synthesis of collagen. Women actually you lose up to 30% of collagen within the first 5 years of menopause. And that's quite a lot. So when we think of collagen, we think of the skin, but it's also very important for joints and ligaments, and everything as well. So what can you do? You could obviously talk about this for hours, which in my book, there's loads more information about this, but you could think of eating foods that contain collagen, things like bone broth. That is a very good source of collagen. If you eat sardines with the bones in, that also contains collagen. Or you can take supplementation like a collagen powder. There is actually research coming out now to say that there has been result in actual skin health, the production of collagen in the skin, because the majority of studies that were done were done on like joint health. And it has been shown that it can really help with joint aches and pains. There's many minerals and vitamins that are important for the skin, but one in particular is vitamin C, because vitamin C is needed for the synthesis of collagen. So you kind of need that along with your other nutrients for your skin to be able to produce collagen. If you're a vegan or a vegetarian, collagen comes from animals. You can either get the bovine collagen powder or you can get marine collagen powder. So what you can do as a vegetarian, there are supplements on the market that help with the synthesis of collagen in your skin that contain vitamin D, other antioxidants and nutrients that will help your skin produce collagen. But you want to really be looking at things like bone broth, like collagen supplements, vitamin C. All of those things can really help with skin health.
Do you have a recommendation for a collagen supplement brand that you know of is safe?
Yeah, I mean, one, and I don't, just so people know this, I don't get commission from any supplement companies, but one that I like and I do use is Vital Proteins. There's just so many different collagen supplements that you use one that is of good quality. Actually look to see what's in it. Has it got lots of fillers and other ingredients that isn't needed? Just do your homework.
Yeah, I think that's available in the United States. So that is an easy one to
Yeah.
buy here.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, weight mastery is something that you've talked about extensively in your book. A lot of women blame menopause for their weight gain around the belly area. And we talked about it in our podcast before this. What are some effective meal planning strategies that help with weight management? Because I know in your book, you've said that you don't need to diet or you don't need to cut down on food, right? You can just plan your eating habits. So can you talk a little bit about that and give some tips on how to manage that?
Yes, I'm not into restriction. As a nutritionalist, we've seen with these really restrictive diets, fad diets, they don't work long term. And there's loads of evidence to back this up. And I use what I like to say is positive nutrition. You can eat all these delicious, amazing foods and say no to the foods that maybe aren't as beneficial to your health. And when it comes to weight management, you've got to look at it long term. It's a lifestyle change. It's not just 2 weeks of eating healthy. It's developing a lifestyle with all these amazing, delicious foods in that you eat every day. But it shouldn't mean that you're feeling hungry and starving yourself and not eating anything. It's deciding, it's what you eat. That's the key to it. So, for example, if you're eating 3 meals a day, think about what you're actually putting on your plate. Think about what you're snacking in between, because we do sometimes tend to eat more than we actually realize. And if you're hungry, if you find your blood sugar is low, then your body is going to be craving very quick carbohydrates that are easily absorbed into your system. Ultra-processed foods, things like refined carbohydrate, biscuits, cakes, bagels, muffins, all of those things give you this rush of sugar very fast, but they are not beneficial if you're trying to lose weight. Well, they're not really beneficial for anybody. So when you're trying to lose weight, think about getting a nice portion of protein because that makes you feel full. It's the building blocks of your body. It's good for hormonal health. It helps to stabilize blood sugar around a palm size. Then carbohydrates. Now, there's so much information, isn't it, about carbohydrates? And I am certainly not telling you to go carbohydrate free, but you want to think about the sort of carbohydrates you're eating. Vegetables are actually carbohydrates. So if you're trying to lose weight and you really want to feel satisfied, have your protein and then fill half of your plate with delicious vegetables, salad, leaves, all of the things that grow in the ground or on a tree. You can eat them. You can eat, half your plate full of that. And then have some healthy fat. Make sure that you do get fat. I know a lot of people, when they're trying to lose weight, they think, oh, well, no, I can't eat fat. But we need fats. It's the sort of fat. Olive oil, butter, nuts and seeds, avocados, wonderful sorts of fat. And it also gives you satiety, so you won't be feeling as hungry. And then what I suggest for my clients is that really want to lose weight for the first month is just to have your protein, your carbohydrates from your vegetables, and your healthy fats. Because you're still getting the carbohydrates there, you're getting protein, you're getting your healthy fats. But what you can introduce in is you can introduce like whole grain. Try to get rid of like the white rice, the white potatoes, all the starchy carbohydrates initially. Have things like brown rice, quinoa, brown pasta, and have a small portion, a little portion, like 4 tablespoons, 3 or 4 tablespoons, and just fill up on vegetables and protein. That's a very sustainable, delicious way to work on weight management. And you should think about doing that at every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And stop snacking. That it's actually quite interesting because I've worked in this field for many years, and what we used to say many years ago that you can't go for longer than a couple of hours without having a snack because of blood sugar, etc. I mean, obviously, if you've got issues with blood sugar or you're diabetic, then that's another conversation. But we don't need to be eating all the time. Our bodies actually need time to rest. Our digestive system likes time where it doesn't have to work all the time. And that's really where we come into the conversation of intermittent fasting, time restricted eating. It basically means that if you eat less hours in a day, it's very good for weight. It's also good for overall health and blood sugar. So that in reality, that could mean that your first meal of the day might be 11 o'clock.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be breakfast. It could be lunch.
Yeah.
And then you have dinner at 6 o'clock. So you only have 2 meals a day. Or it could mean that you actually shift things. So you have breakfast at 10 o'clock, you have lunch at 1 o'clock, and then you have your last meal at the day at 6 o'clock. Because when you go to bed, there's a lot of hours that you're in bed that you're not actually eating. And that also is fasting time. What studies show, which is very interesting, is that if you close your eating window, so you're eating less hours in the day, even if you're eating the same thing that you ate before, it has benefits on your health because you've got that gap of time where your body can actually repair. Because when it's not having to digest and work all the time, it actually does other things like repairing, your gut lining and getting rid of cells that are damaged. So it's a wonderful thing to fast if you can.
Yeah, intermittent fasting, I've heard very good things about it. And I think it's totally doable if you eat early at night and start late in the morning. There's one thing that I've always had a question about is dairy products. Dairy products are known to cause inflammation in your body. As if you're in that menopausal age, you're anyway feeling inflamed and you're feeling like bloated. Should people completely give up dairy products? Because I know you mentioned butter and cheese previously, that it's a good healthy fat. So what is your opinion on dairy products?
My opinion on dairy is there's nothing wrong with dairy products. It's very individual. Obviously, if you're sensitive, if you've got lactose intolerant and you can't eat dairy products because they make you feel ill, then that's a different thing. But you don't want to be removing whole food groups unless you really have to. When we're talking about dairy, there's a lot of good nutrients in dairy. There's calcium, there's healthy fats. So if you don't have a problem with dairy, then it is not something that I would tell you to stop eating. However, it boils down to what the quality, what are you actually eating? I would recommend that people use full fat milk, just normal full fat milk. We don't want anything that's been processed or refined. So full fat milk, butter, yogurt, like Greek yogurt, none of the sweetened yogurts with lots of flavoring and sugar. And it's really like going back to the basics. Like I always say, like my grandmother used to eat the proper dairy. There's just gone. There's so many different variations, aren't there now, of dairy, which a lot of it is highly refined and processed.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So you mentioned sleep issues, and one of the biggest problems that women in this menopausal phase of their life suffer with, they cannot sleep. They're on 3, 4 hours of sleep, which kind of increases their cortisol and stress hormone the next day. I've also heard that because of an imbalance in your blood sugar at night, sleep can be disruptive. Is there a certain kind of food that women should take to have a good night's sleep, at least a 7 hour sleep, that is not going to mess up their blood sugar levels?
Yeah, if you do find that you're waking up because of blood sugar, then you can always try this to see if it helps, is to have like a small snack 30 minutes, 40 minutes before you go to bed. I mean, you could even do it an hour before you go to bed. But you don't want to be eating loads. And what you want to make sure that you're getting is fat and some carbohydrates and a little bit of protein. For example, you could have a slice of apple with some nut butter,
Okay.
because that gives you all of those things. You could have some fresh berries with some Greek yogurt, maybe some seeds on them, and see if that helps, because it isn't always the case. Not some women wake up during perimenopause and menopause for other reasons. It's not just to do with blood sugar, but it can be. Absolutely. It's totally correct what you said. So I found with clients that if they think it's that, try having a little snack before you go to bed and see if that helps.
So it would be low blood sugar, right? If you're suggesting to eat.
Yeah, it would. But if you haven't eaten anything, I mean, if you've been maybe had a couple of glasses of wine before you go to bed, your blood sugar will initially be high or higher, but throughout the night, your body will take care of that and your blood sugar will drop. So, yeah, it's the lower blood sugar which would wake you up if you haven't been eating loads or doing something in the evening, like been to a party or something, because you find with alcohol that always tends to make you wake up early.
What about brain fog? Again, a symptom that many women suffer with. What is a brain protective food or nutrient that can help to protect your memory against cognitive decline?
There's a couple of nutrients. One I would say that's very important is omega-3 fatty acids. They're very important for many things, but particularly for brain health. And there's a lot of research behind this as well. Finding fatty fish, if you eat a couple of portions of fatty fish every week, nuts and seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds have that in, but fatty fish is one of the best. And also things, like mackerel, herring, those sorts of salmon, those sorts of fish. If you're a vegan or vegetarian, you can get omega-3 from algae. So you can actually find algae supplementation that contains omega-3. So that's very important for brain health. And then the B vitamins, particularly B6 and B12, are very important for brain health. They're very important for focus and concentration. And if you're suffering from brain fog, again, these can be quite tricky to get if you're a vegan or vegetarian. So what I say to people is get your levels checked, particularly B12. And if you find that they're low, take a supplementation if you're vegan or vegetarian. Things like eggs, nuts and seeds, fish, again, all of those things do contain and meat.
Yeah. You've also spoken about chronic stress and cortisol being high, which kind of basically chronic stress blocks the hormonal balance in the body, right? It imbalances it. What are some foods or nutrients that women can use to just navigate the anxiety and the stress and kind of keep that in balance?
Yeah, your body's a very clever machine. Because what happens is when you go through menopause and you no longer have ovarian function, you produce a small amount of hormones from your adrenal glands, which sit on top of your kidneys. And when you're chronically stressed, as you say, your body will always prioritize stress hormones over female hormones like estrogen and progesterone. So you find your adrenal glands will be constantly producing cortisol, and you won't be producing any of the other hormones that you need. So that's why things can become a bit unbalanced, and it's so important that you manage stress. So when it comes to nutrition, I would say the best thing you can do to manage stress nutritionally is to avoid sugar as much as possible, because sugar causes inflammation, it causes stress on the body. So getting rid of all like the packaged foods, the foods that you look on the back and sugar is up there, in the first 3 or 4 ingredients, baked goods, sweets, all of these things. Of course, we can eat them sometimes. It's not forbidden, but it shouldn't be part of your daily life. Making sure with stress that you're eating a wide range of different fruits and vegetables, lots of colour, because we need phytonutrients. They're like antioxidants, which really, really help our body kind of fight off all the detrimental effect that stress has on our bodily systems. So lots of colour. You should always eat like a rainbow of colour. One supplement that can be quite beneficial for reducing stress is ashwagandha. You want to be careful with it, like all supplements, make sure that it doesn't interact with if you're taking medications or anything. But that can be have a calming effect on the body, and it can also, really just help you get through stressful periods.
Okay. All right. So you have a chapter in your book that says, "What I Wish I Knew at 30." What is your one piece of advice in terms of lifestyle or dietary changes that a person who's in their 30s or 40s can make that will help them in a much smoother transition into menopause?
What I would say to people is that knowledge is power. So even when you're younger as a woman, just understand what perimenopause is, what menopause is, so that you kind of know what's going to happen in the future. But what you can do is make sure that you go into perimenopause in a healthy state. Because again, this is shown in studies that if you go into or transition into perimenopause and you're maybe carrying a bit of extra weight, or you've not been looking after yourself, you have a diet high in ultra processed foods, maybe haven't been exercising as much as you should, and the fact that you may experience more menopausal symptoms, than you would have if you went into this transition in a more healthy state. So it's that overall wellness, isn't it? Looking after yourself from all the different angles with nutrition, thinking, what am I actually putting in my body? What, am I respecting my body with all these lovely nutritious foods, or am I eating foods that actually are making me feel terrible? And then looking at, am I moving? Am I actually moving my body enough on a daily basis, even if it's just going for a walk? And then mindfulness, how do I feel in myself? Do I have a positive attitude? Do I think everything's really negative? All of these things help us move through perimenopause and menopause in such a easier way. And it's very interesting that in other areas of the world, in different cultures in the world, where menopausal women are looked up to, they're looked upon as the leaders of the village. They're very wise. They know everything. It's like the menopause is celebrated. These women don't experience any sort of menopausal symptoms like we do in the Western world. I find that fascinating.
All right. I have been looking at some of the recipes on your website, and they all seem very, very nutritious and exciting to, play around with. But can you give me one quick recipe or food combination that will help with an instant change in mood and anxiety?
Yeah, okay. I would say a salmon poke bowl. You can have smoked salmon. It has quinoa, which is wonderful. You've got lots of lovely protein there. It has some soya beans, so Adama beans in there. And then you've got a tahini dressing. A tahini is made from sesame seeds. So you can just take that and just whisk it up with a little bit of olive oil, and then you just pour that over. You can add in some nuts and seeds, and you can put in some lettuce or rucola or spinach. That's so easy to do. That's the most amazing lunch or dinner, and that really will help with focus. If you don't eat animal products, what you can do is you can use tempeh instead of the salmon, or you can use tofu instead of the salmon. Great combination, healthy fats, omega-3, protein.
You said use quinoa, right? Not rice.
Yeah, quinoa is a very good source of protein. If you're going to use rice, use brown rice. White rice is very high on the glycemic scale for blood sugar.
Okay. So you've also talked about lifestyle foundations, which is your stress, sleep, food. Do you think that fixing the first one can help unlock some kind of progress in the other two?
Yes, absolutely, because you will start to feel better. Even if you only focus on one of those things, if you start eating better, that will make you feel better. That will motivate you then to think, I actually feel I've got more energy today. I'm going to go out for a walk. If you start exercising, but you're still maybe not eating as healthily, you will start feeling better. It will give you more energy. So even if you start one of them, you will start feeling better. And because of that, you will want to do all the other aspects.
You've also talked about consistency, but at the same time being kind to yourself. If you slip a day without following a good routine, especially when it comes to eating habits, which I think every person does, especially women with all the stress of family and children and work, constantly balancing that out. How does one get back on track without beating themselves up that they've not followed the plan correctly, and be kind to themselves?
When nobody's perfect, we're all going to have days or even weeks where life becomes quite stressful and tough, and we may be eating lots of sugar and things like that. It happens. But the most important thing is that you think, okay, this is happened. This is what's happening to me now because I'm going through a very stressful time. But I know that when this stops, I'm going to get back onto my healthy lifestyle plan. It could be that you just had a bad day and you've maybe not done the things that you thought you should do for your health. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just think, okay, this is today. Tomorrow's a new day. I'm going to put that behind me when I wake up tomorrow morning, I'm going to start the day with a nice, healthy breakfast, or I'm going to start the day by going for a walk. You have to kind of reset.
Wow. So someone who's listening to this podcast is probably feeling overwhelmed with all this amazing advice. What is one, I would say, actionable tip or advice you would give to that person so that they don't feel overwhelmed, but they can quickly take that action and kind of reset their wellness journey?
Do one thing. So choose one thing out of everything that we've spoken about and just do that for a couple of weeks. When you've got that in place, do another. So it could be something like, okay, I'm going to eat more protein at every meal. I'm going to try and get my protein intake up now. Because if you try and do everything at once, it won't work and you'll give up because you'll think, oh, no, I couldn't, it's impossible. Add some more vegetables to your plate. Do that for 2 weeks. Do it for a month. But once you've got that in place and that becomes more of a habit, then move on to something else, like going for a walk twice a week, going for a walk after dinner. It really is, and I see this all the time. It's the small steps that add up that you do daily and that become habits that have the overall effect on your well-being.
No, I totally agree with it. It's always about small baby steps and then not focusing on the end goal. But this was amazing. I'm glad that we got to basically talk about all the symptoms of menopause or perimenopause and then have a solution for each one of them in terms of food habits. So thank you so much once again, Alison. This was truly very, very informative.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure being on your podcast. Thank you.
And I will be putting down Alison's website and the link to her book in the description section in YouTube. If you did enjoy this podcast, please like, subscribe, and share. Until then, this is Rishanka Jones signing off.